what is up? So, I'm going to do something a little bit different today. And that is because I had plans for dating green and red flags, but I wanted to push a different topic to the forefront. So, everything's going to kind of get pushed a week because this was a scheduled episode, but I really just want to talk about it because the importance for me to talk about it has just been like more and more amongst what has been going on in my life. So, what it's like being a type 1 diabetic. So, for me, I'm very, very unlucky. I've had where essentially, I'm not kidding you, in September, my insulin pump malfunctioned. I am on the Tandem T Slim X2. So in September, it malfunctioned, and I was like, you know what? That's fine. I'm still within my warranty. Let me call Tandem. Let me get this fixed. They found that it was a malfunction within the pump, so they sent me a new one, and I returned the other one, as all warranties go for insulin pumps. So it was no problem. I was like, okay, I'm all for it. Like, let's just, move on. Like, I did, essentially me and my insurance and my mom paid, goodness knows, probably upwards of $4,000 for the insulin pump. So I was like, I just wanted to get back to normal because if anyone knows what it's like to have something so life-saving malfunction, it throws everything off. Like, I'll get to an example of today later on in the episode, but remember that thought, how much it disrupts your energy. So I was like, all right, no worries, like, let's just get this done, because this happened when one of my friends was visiting me in Texas. Like, literally, I had Nick come and visit, and I was having a pump malfunction. And the worst time to have your pump malfunction is when you're like, you have something planned. So like having a friend who wants to come and drink and eat and do all this fun stuff with me, like, what am I doing? Like, I have to deal with this because I could die if I don't. Like, it just puts your life into perspective. But anyway, so that happened in September, and I got a new pump. I think I didn't get it until after he left, which, mind you, it was a holiday weekend when he came to visit. So shipping, even though it was overnight shipping, it still came like 2 days later because of the holiday. And I was like, you know what? It's fine. Whatever. I get it. It happened at the worst possible time. I'm just unlucky with diabetes. So then I was like, okay, get back to normal. Like, I was on shots for a couple of days until my pump, came in and I was able to do a new one. And shots just disrupt my flow because I've been on an insulin pump for years, literal years. Like, I'm pretty sure I was only on shots for vacations and then a couple times here and there, like in between pumps. And when I first got diagnosed, because they want you to learn how to do injections before they transition you to an insulin pump. So I was like, okay, no worries, we can do this. So then the Dexcom G7 comes out, right? And I'm excited about this. I'm like, okay, I want to definitely switch to the Dexcom G7. So I'll talk to my endo about it when I see her in March, because I started a new job in January, so I couldn't go to my previously scheduled appointment in January. No big deal, whatever. So I'm like, okay, perfect. I'm going to switch to the G7. So then I switch, right? My doctor and I agree. However, I don't know what happened, but they like sent it to the pharmacy, but I guess I needed a prior authorization for it as well. So the pharmacy was waiting on that. So I didn't get the G7 until probably a month after my appointment. And in that meantime of me not getting the G7, my Tandem T Slim pump, the warranty expired, the 4-year warranty. And I was like, okay, like no big deal. Like my pump is going to warranty. That's fine. Who cares? Like I didn't think anything of it until I got the G7 finally from my pharmacy because I was waiting literally a month. I finally got it and I go to put it on and I realized that my pump did not have updated software. And for those that don't know, if you're not in warranty, you can no longer update your software. So I had an insulin pump that was only compatible with the G6 because the software that I needed was never installed because it didn't come out until apparently January. And I didn't realize this. I just thought, okay, my pump's going out of warranty, so what? Like, it's still compatible with the G7. I didn't realize I needed a software update to make it compatible with the G7. So then I was like, great, I can't purchase a warranty. They don't do that. You have to buy a whole new pump, and that's just wrong in all ways, shapes, and forms. Like, Big Pharma, get your money, because clearly you are from me, and I'm struggling. So I was like, all right, whatever. You know what? It's fine. I'm not going to go with Tandem again because I'm just sick of them. Like, I'm sick of just everything that has to do with them. I've been with them for years and years, at least 8, because I've had 2 warranties with them. So I was like, you know what? I'm done. I'm not doing Tandem again. I'm not happy. I'm not pleased. I'm very pissed off. Like, I never got an email about updating my pump and updating the warrant, updating the pump for the compatibility with the G7. Had I got an email like that instead of your warranty is expiring, yeah, I would have updated the software to make it compatible with the G7, but I'm pretty sure I never got an email from them stating, hey, update your pump to be compatible with the G7. Maybe that's just me, but I would have wanted to know because I had to buy a whole new pump. So I went with the Beta Bionics eyelet. So that took a while because I am not kidding you when I say the Beta Bionics took me about a month and a half to get because of the stock, talking to people, talking with Edge Park because I had just got Tandem supplies, trying to figure everything out with the sales rep, and then also realizing that I just realizing all the moving parts and needing a prior authorization for that as well from my doctor. So I finally got the shipment 2 days ago for my Beta Bionics eyelet. And I'm not kidding you, this morning I woke up and my pump malfunctioned. All of a sudden, it's not getting, I have an occlusion alarm or just all deliveries stopped alarm. Like, I was like, okay, what's going on? So I changed my pump site. Same alarm. I'm like, okay, I changed all 3 the first time with my pump site, and it gave that alarm. The second time, I changed all 3, the cartridge, the tubing, the pump site, all 3, both times, same alarm. And now it's beeping in the guest bedroom because apparently I have a pump malfunction again. Very funny how I don't want to update my warranty and then all of a sudden this happens. It's giving Apple iPhones going kaput so that you can buy a new one. Well, little does Tandem know, I went with the eyelet because I'm sick of their shit. And tell me why I've had, in 4 years, 2 pumps malfunction. In the span of less than 1 year, I've had 2 pumps malfunction. Let's put it that way. Because the first pump was great, but then the refurbished one wants to go kaput. And it's just like, it's funny to me because I feel as though if they have these refurbished pumps that they send to people that aren't going to last, and they know they're not going to last. They're not going to send you a brand new pump. They're going to send one that they fixed supposedly and refurbished. So that's just what I've been going through. So now I'm on shots for 2 weeks until I meet with the Beta Bionics rep who is going to do the training with me, because it's about a 2 hour training for me to learn the pump and learn everything about it. So I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, the life of a type 1 diabetic and the unlucky one at it. That's me. I've also passed out. I've also went in DK multiple times in the hospital. I've had some trials and tribulations, but that's just what I've been going through. But let me get a charger real quick, and then I'm going to go into another clip, and we're going to talk about diabetes a little bit further. I just don't want my laptop to die. Okay, gals, we are back. It's a little bit funkier because I had to get up close so that my laptop could actually plug in, but it's fine. So let's talk about what it's like to be a type 1 diabetic, because I think that people don't really understand. And even though Diabetes Awareness Month isn't until November, which I'll probably do like an updated episode of diabetes in that month just to kind of raise more awareness. But I was diagnosed January 26, 2009. And for anyone who is a diabetic, you know that your diagnosis date is like your birthday. You remember it so well. And it's almost like a celebration. You call it your diaversary. And it's a celebration of the fact that you have made it so far and you don't realize like how much shit you've put up with. For me personally, it gave me a little PTSD, because, you know, it is scary being 11 years old with this life-threatening, chronic, debilitating illness. Like, you're like, what the heck is diabetes? And why do I have it? I'm not fat, right? Like, everyone thinks that. But the thing is that when I was diagnosed, before I was diagnosed, I was having a lot of problems and issues with pain. It was almost like I felt the same pain when I had appendicitis. I literally, like, I was in so much pain and I didn't understand why until I finally found out that, like, I was dying, essentially. That's what my pain was from. Like, I was in DKA, but I was in so much pain that, like, sleeping was the only way that I would feel okay, is if I was asleep. And my body just hurt. Water tasted like iron. I remember my grandmother telling me to drink milk instead if water tasted weird. And I didn't listen to her, and I went behind her back, and I was like, no, there's something in me telling me that I need water. Even though it tastes bad, I need it. Like, I can't get enough of it. So I'm glad that I did that, and disobeyed my grandmother, but it was for good cause. Like, how can water be bad for you, right? Like, unless you're allergic to it, like, I can't. Anyway, but I don't know if there's like an allergy to water, like drinking it. I've heard of water allergies like on your skin. I'm not sure about drinking it. That would be crazy if you were allergic to ingesting water. But anyway, that's besides the point. I don't think that's a real thing. But I just remember being in so much pain and I wanted it to go away. But the thing that got my mom, because my mom is the one who really noticed it and was like, something's wrong. We have a family history of hyper and hypothyroidism. So my mom has hypothyroidism, and her dad, RIP grandfather, but he had hyperthyroidism. So my mom was worried that that would be a genetic thing that could possibly happen. But she saw me in a bathing suit at 11 years old, And at 11 years old, I had lost 15 pounds. And I was eating, I was drinking, I was a dancer, yes, but why did I lose 15 pounds? I was sickly. My bathing suit was hanging off of me, and I swore my mom had just bought it like that past summer because it was January and we lived in Florida. So, of course, we're going to be at the heated pool. Like, it was just a thing that I did as a kid. I love to swim. So, my mom was like, okay, why is my daughter 15 pounds lighter? Why is this bathing suit hanging off of her? Why is she eating and playing like a normal kid, but like she looks so sickly? And like I was tired very, very often. I don't remember too much about how I was back then, but I do remember me being exhausted and tired and hungry and thirsty, and those are all the symptoms of diabetes. Like, you don't think about it until you realize. So that's kind of why I'm thankful that Soph is doing or is a part of a campaign to have you like screen for diabetes, because you never know if you're going to be pre-diabetic. Like, it's not just about weight. It is an autoimmune disorder. It is something in your body that is just attacking itself. It is cells that are just attacking you, and you don't know. We don't know why. Okay? It is an idiopathic chronic illness. And if you can tell me how type 1 diabetes happens, good for you. I'm sure you're going to tell me I ate too much sugar or had too much food or carbohydrates or whatever. No, that is type 2 diabetes. Type 1 diabetes, there is no direct link of why we develop it. There is, talk about, it could be environmental issues. It could be something triggers the autoimmune system. Something triggers it, and you just, bam, like, I'm just the lucky one. Thank you. Thank you. So glad. I'm so lucky to handle this. Sorry, my sarcasm might be a little much, but it's been a lot. And so back to the story. So my mom took me to my primary care doctor and got me checked and was like, okay, like, we need to know what's going on because like she's sick. So they run some tests. Turns out I was double diagnosed with type 1 diabetes and hypothyroidism. So it was scary, and I was crying. And I remember after that appointment, my mom had dropped me off at my dad's house, and I was just waiting. Like, I don't know if it was a winter vacation or if I was just homesick or what, because it definitely wasn't a Saturday. Like, I don't know much about what happened. I remember the date, and I also do remember that when I did feel sick and I was visiting my grandmother's house and my grandmother told me all of that, that was New Year's Eve. Like, that was like around the time of New Year's. So that was the beginning of January because my parents had went away and dropped us off and all that jazz. So that's how I remember, them correlating with one another. So you're telling me that from January 1st, when that incident happened, to January 26th, I somehow drank enough water to keep my sugars or DKA at bay until I started to worsen again. Like, I don't know what happened, but like I said, I'm a dancer. I drink a lot of water. That's like all I drink. I hate soda, so I never drank soda. If I were to drink something, it may have been like apple juice or orange juice, but I wasn't too big on juice either. Like, I'm a full water drinker to a T, so I think that saved me in a way. But anyway, so once my mom texted me that and she was like, we're bringing you to the hospital, you have diabetes, I bawled my eyes out. I was so upset. I was like, what is going on? Like, I don't understand. Like, how could this happen to me? And I also remember a funny little ironic thing that happened. I'm talking to him, where I saw Nick Jonas on the TV talking about his diabetes diagnosis. And I said, thank goodness I don't have to deal with that. Like, thank goodness I don't have that. Like, I swear the universe was just like, we're gonna hit you with that now because we gotta give it to somebody. We have a little type 1 diabetes here. We just gonna plop that on you. Like, I don't know. I wish I understood how the world worked, how the universe worked, how life worked. But like, I'll never understand that. And I don't think any of us ever will. But just to be like the one to go through this diagnosis out of everybody in my family, I was like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, of course. Like, my mom has hypothyroidism and she is lactose intolerant. My brother is lactose intolerant. But here I am, jokes on me, type 1 diabetic, hypothyroidism, PTSD. Like, I can't get enough of the diagnoses. But yeah, so I remember going into the hospital, and I remember my mom and my dad at the time were divorced. They're obviously still divorced, but at the time they were in a room together, and I thought that was amazing because I was like, they're being cordial because their daughter is going through something. Like, they are in the same room talking to each other because of my diagnosis. And it was nice because when I remember them divorcing, I do remember that they tried to fight away from me and my brother, but they did it behind closed doors in the house. So, of course, me being nosy and eavesdropping, I still heard them anyway. So, I like knew some of the stuff that was going on. I didn't understand everything at the time and I didn't know everything at the time, but I understood that my mom wasn't happy. They were having a lot of arguments. I remember my dad trying and failing, and the love was not alive. And my dad had a lot of mental health issues that he was dealing with. So all of this came like crashing down eventually. But in that moment, they were there together for me. And I remember my brother was also there. And I've said this probably a million times on different social media platforms because this is the one thing that warms my heart about this day, was that my brother told me that he wished that he had the diabetes instead of me because he did not want to see me go through this, that he loved me too much that he would rather have it. And like, that just melted me in so many different ways because in that moment I knew that, like, yes, I was the younger sister that always picked on her older brother, but my older brother would have died for me. Like, I know that my older brother loves me, and I know that my older brother would always protect me and always be there for me. And in that moment, it just cemented that into my mind that, like, family is blood, yes, but there's so much love there between me and my brother that even though we don't talk every day now, even though life happens and all of that jazz, like, I know that he loves me and I know that he cares about me just as much as like I love and care about him. And it warms my heart that I have that kind of love in a sibling because he is my only brother and I won't get another one. Like, that's just how life is, you know. Like, I cherish every moment that I can, you know, get to see him or get to talk to him, or, you know, when life isn't so crazy. Like, that is my brother at the end of the day. And that is one family member that I could honestly say that, like, I'll never have to hear, well, he's your brother, you should talk to him. Like, no, that I'm never going to hear something like that about him because I am a part of his life and I don't want it any other way. But anyway, back to the diagnosis story and what it's like being a diabetic. It is tough. I experience burnout quite often, not just because I'm the type of person to work myself to the bone, but also because diabetes does burn you out. It is something that you have to think about constantly. You have to be on top of your blood sugars so that you can feel good. If your sugar is too high or too low, like, you have to take care of that. And if you don't, like, you're gonna feel nasty. Um, Also, every time you eat, you have to consider your carb intake and you have to give insulin for it. And they suggest like 15 minutes before your meal, you should be giving insulin. And I'm like, great. Like, I have to think about all of this, and like I have work, I have this, I have that. Sometimes I don't know how many carbs I'm eating. Sometimes it's a guessing game, and it can be quite exhausting that you're like, how do I deal with all of this, you know? So a device like an insulin pump does help in the form of not having to constantly worry about insulin as much, because when the system that I'm getting, the iLet and the G7, they connect with one another. So when my iLet gets readings from my G7, it says, hey, iLet, I noticed that my number, the number I'm reading on this girl is, 204. Like, I need you to give insulin. And the iLet's gonna be like, okay, G7, you said that number. I'm gonna give her a little poke of insulin, and we'll drop that right down, no problem. Like, they communicate with each other, and that is so great for someone like me who is burnt out, and a lot of people are. So finally, it just feels so good to have a device like that, because right now, and when you're first diagnosed, you start on shots. So you have 3 shots a day for your meals: breakfast, lunch, dinner. You have a correction bolus that you have to do every single time you are above your target range. And you have your 4th shot of the day, your 4th planned shot of the day, let's say, because you eat 3 times, you dose 3 times. And then your 4th shot is once a day, 24 hours of insulin, so that you get a little dosage of insulin every hour so that you don't die. So for those people that say, oh, like, you just need to diet, it's fine, you won't need hardly any insulin, I still have to give a baseline bolus because I don't produce any. So if I just ate nothing for the rest of my life and drank water, even though I know that's literally impossible, but let's just say you can go, let's say what they say, you can go without food for like a week or something like that. So let's say I did that. I didn't have food for a week, and I just drank water. I guarantee you, if I were to do that experiment, which I never will because it's ridiculous, I would still need insulin. I don't produce any. It is a hormone I don't produce. Your body will constantly, if you're a normal person, not a diabetic, your body constantly produces insulin to regulate your sugars. When you're stressed, right, your sugars elevate. Your pancreas realizes that and releases some insulin. It's like a key that unlocks the door so that you can go through the little tunnel of that door. I don't have that. I have to do that. I have to be the key. So I have to do the injections. I have to watch my sugars. And a lot of people don't realize how much that can burn a person out. It's a debilitating disease. It's something that is just so exhausting. And I don't mean to complain about it. It's just, I don't think people realize how much upkeep there is to it. Because if I'm on shots, I'm doing all of those shots a day. I need to make sure I have the insulin, the syringes, the pen needle caps. I need to make sure I have all the stuff to check my sugar, whether it be a continuous glucose monitor, whether it be finger pricks and a meter. Like, you need so many supplies. And on top of that, it just costs so much money. Like, I need insurance to live because I can't afford it without it. Like, God knows that my disease would probably cost me $100,000 a year. Like, maybe I'm exaggerating. Maybe I'm probably exaggerating. But with pump supplies, yeah, it's a little bit ridiculous. Like, I think my insulin vial, I get 3 vials a month. 3 vials a month. I'm pretty sure each vial is like at least $150, if not $300, for the non-generic, like for the brand name. So if that tells you anything, that's just the insulin. You still got to get the syringes. If you want a pen, you have to get the pen. If you want a pump, you have to get the pump and the pump supplies, because mind you, if you get a pump, you get the pump, you get the pump sites, and you get the cartridges that hold the insulin. So it's expensive. It's ridiculous. It's a lot of upkeep. It's a lot of brain power, it's a lot of energy, and a lot of people don't realize how much that diabetics put daily into their life. And sometimes I just want to break. And sometimes I have those days where I let myself go. I just give a shit ton of insulin. I eat whatever I want and I say fuck it. And that's very unhealthy of me. But if you've had, like, I've had diabetes since 2009. You're telling me in 15 years, like, I can't give myself one break, one day, like, just one day. Because, hold up. Okay, for those that are on Apple right now, I'm going into the calculator on my phone. There's 365 days a year times 15 years that I have had diabetes. Forget about leap years. We're not doing that right now. That is 5,475 days plus at least 90 days for the diagnosis. So I'm over 5,500 days, over 5,500 days of being a diabetic. Do you know how exhausting it is to take care of yourself every single day to a T for 5,000 days consecutively? It's a lot. But now that we're on the topic of diabetes and all of that, I want to talk about type 1 diabetes, highs and lows. I'm going to pull up a chart, and I want you guys to think about, if you have any friends, if you have a loved one, what are you monitoring? So, okay. I'm going to talk about just the symptoms, just to give some awareness out there, because I've done it, and I've also had a friend at one point who have been driving while low and ended up in a car accident. And it's very scary because diabetics still have to live, but like, we have to drive, we have to do things. And like, sometimes blood sugars are out of our control. Sometimes we drop because we miscalculate, or sometimes we have malfunctions and it causes things. For example, Soph, I watched her Snapchat story a couple weeks ago about how she's on the Omnipod, and the pods, when she flies in a plane, something about the altitude, or I don't know if it's the system, but it gives her too much insulin. I don't like, it leaks. She said it leaks. So I don't know how that happens. I'm not very familiar with Omnipods, but it leaks into her insulin into her body, and she goes low. And it's like, there's so many things out of our control. Yes, diabetes has come a long way with technology, but there's still so much to work on. And it just makes me realize like how scary it is that one little mishap can cause us to like crash into a car or die or faint or have a seizure. Like, there's so many complications and possibilities. So just some signs of hypo and hyperglycemia. So for hypoglycemia, or low blood sugar, you I don't know why I say you. Things that I personally experience is I sweat, I shake, I like get like this, like my body is just like shaky, and like I feel like I'm on a cloud. I feel like I'm floating. I have like this head dizziness to me, and dizziness is also one of those. You get sleepy, that you don't want to take care of yourself. You get hungry because your body is craving food. Your body is like, I need something to fix this. Give me food. Give me food. Like, shaking it out, going into the pantry or the fridge at 2 a.m. and eating like half of your food supply is ridiculous. Irritability. I get very irritable when I'm low. And another thing is I can't think for myself when I'm low. You ask me a question, I'm like, leave me alone. I need to deal with this. Like, one track mind, because I'm very irritable and I can't comprehend. So I need to be able to be on top of my game, because the low blood sugars cause those critical thinking or even simple thinking abilities just go. Like it all goes out the window, and I feel like almost as if I'm drunk. And I'm not drunk, but it just shows how much a low blood sugar can debilitate you, or it can hinder you from being a human being. So hyperglycemia is the opposite, where it's a high blood sugar, which is kind of what I experienced this morning. Hello. Dry mouth, increased thirst, and because of that, increased urine output, blurred vision, weakness, headaches, and for me, fruity breath. And also, I feel like when I'm high, when my sugar is high, I just feel like I want to sleep. Like I'm exhausted, I'm tired, I'm just everything out of my body is drained. So, what I wanted to talk about actually today is my pump malfunctioned again, and I can't remember if I mentioned that or not because I feel like I've been talking forever now. But my pump malfunctioned today. My replacement T Slim. So it's beeping in the background in the back room. And I woke up this morning. I called out of work. My sugar was high. My pump wasn't working. I needed to figure this out because, mind you, the last time this happened was in September, and I used all my backup supplies. So I literally, once my sugar was good, it was like 180. I was like, okay, I'm good to drive. I literally went to my endo office and picked up um, two things of Traceba, some pen needle caps, and then I also had her put in for syringes so that I could administer Humalog for my meals. I do have some syringes, but I'm not kidding you when I say I have probably less than 10 syringes. Like, I need those syringes ASAP, and I'm probably not going to get them until Thursday because that's when it says it's going to be ready. But yeah, it's a lot, and it can be a lot, and I think that we need to realize that, I mean, diabetes isn't the only disease out there. It's not the only thing, only thing out there that's stressful in life, but I just want us to be more aware of what diabetes is and what diabetes is like, because I feel like the more we spread awareness, and with its increasing, I don't want to say popularity, but the increasing diagnoses that I've seen, like I know somebody that was diagnosed at like, I think he was like 19 or 20 years old. And I was like, you were just diagnosed. Like, it used to be called juvenile diabetes because you used to be diagnosed at a young age. And I think Soph was even diagnosed at like 22 or something like that. Like, she literally was like gonna go to graduation, but she had the diagnoses. And it just made me realize like how much people don't know about diabetes. And this is just like my story, and this is just a little tidbit of like things. But if you feel so inclined, if you don't feel good, if you experienced any of the symptoms that I talked today about, go get screened. Just for your safety. Like, you never know. And it's best to get screened because nobody in my family has diabetes. I'm so serious. Like, nobody in my family. I think my grandmother might have, on my dad's side, might have developed type 2 diabetes, but it's not always genetic. I have not always seen a genetic link. And I just want people to be aware of it because it could be anything. And I don't know what the exact triggers are for the for diabetes to surface. But I think that it's a great start to get screened and figure out if you can take care of yourself before you end up in the hospital with DKA, because that is a scary experience. Like, I knew someone that was diagnosed, and I think his blood sugar was like 1700? It was like off the charts. Like, he almost died. And he had told me about that, and I told him, like, I was so sorry. Like, diabetes is just crazy. It really changes your life. And I wish I could say it's for the better, but you know what? I'm going to manifest that this diabetes is for the better because I'm going to have a reason for this diabetes diagnosis. Maybe one day I will travel across the world talking about diabetes and have all of these videos explaining what diabetes is and giving education. Like, I have no idea what I'm going to do with my life, but I hope that my diabetes somehow serves a better purpose, because it can't just be debilitating me all the time. Like, it has to serve a purpose. Otherwise, I feel like it's a waste. Um, to have me be diagnosed. Like, I need to make it something worthwhile. Like, I'm not just gonna let it run me to the ground. I don't want it to define me either, but I want to like overcome diabetes, kick diabetes in the butt, and be like, you know what? Like, yeah, I have this shitty disease, but like, I'm kicking its butt, and I am making sure other people know how to take care of themselves, or making sure other people get tested, whatever the case may be. Um, but I think for now, that's enough of the episode. I am going to go take a shower and play with the pups and then go to bed early because I have Pilates tomorrow in the morning. I'm really excited for Pilates, mostly because I want to start working out again, and I know I can do it. And I know that life has been crazy and hectic for me since probably December, but I've got this, and I'm going to continue to get this. And I just figure I wanted to talk about diabetes today, because a lot has been going on, and sometimes this feels like therapy to me, but today was a good day, and I'm glad that I decided to talk about diabetes instead of dating green and red flags. No offense. That'll be next week's episode, everybody. So sorry. But I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for watching, and we will talk next week.